welcome to my studio. I'm Jessie, and this is the Knit Up and Dye podcast, episode 52, So Much Gratitude. I have so much I want to go over this week, so I'm just going to dive in. I have a timer going in the other room. I'm filming this kind of in segments. It'll all be edited together and make all kinds of sense, but in order for everything to time out properly, because I'm showing you a couple of different demonstrations today, I've got things happening in the past that are going to be shown in the future. As always, I'd like to start by giving a special thank you to all of my new subscribers, as well as my ongoing subscribers. I love you guys. Everything you see here is about you, and I'm always looking to hear from you, what you'd like to see, what you want to learn, what you want more of. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I have a cheat sheet as always, because I had a lot of new subscribers. I don't know how you guys found me. I'm thrilled that you're here. I would love to know how you found me. If you have a minute, drop me a line, pop me a comment, and let me know how you found me so I know who to thank. Let's go down through the list. Special hello and welcome goes out to Kim, Louise, Laura, Chris, Julie, Pixie Yarns, Kara, Sherry, Caroline, Allison, Tara, Wendy, Emma, and Emma. I had two Emmas. Hello to both of you. Kay Craig, Carmel, Shell, Chantel, Dana, Industrial Butterfly, Sue, Carol, Tony, Julie, Erica, Melissa, Michelle, and Jane. Wow, I have never had such a jump in subscribers. There's a little piece of me that suspects that y'all are bored and cold and started to do some searches on YouTube and happened to find me. I don't care how you found me. I'm grateful to have you here, but I do want to thank whoever sent you. As always, special love and thanks goes out to Chris FF, Linda, Leanne, Evie, David, Donna, Betty Ann, Scott and John, Carolyn, Kate, Mitch, and oh my goodness, Mitch and Terry, Nancy and Rachel. All kinds of love for you guys. Thank you everyone who took the time to send me comments, ask me questions, and provide support this past week. I really appreciate it. Now that the Mouseketeer roll call is over, I've never had such a list. Thank you guys. If you tuned me out already, I'm sorry. But it's important to me that I say hello and thank you to all of you. So let's dig in. What have I been knitting? I have been working on a pair of Coexist socks. And let me grab them. I got one sock done. It was fun. It was fun. It was a little crazy. I haven't worked from intricate small charts in a while. So that was good for me. It's good to exercise your brain. And I've never done a sock that had so many different patterns in it. The Coexist pattern is wonderful. It's one of these pick your path kind of things. And so I got to choose my cuff, my leg, my heel flap, my gusset, my foot, and my toe. I had all kinds of options. And it was great fun. Coexist is free on Ravelry. If you'd like a challenge, if you'd like some fun, if you'd like to give a go, pop on over to Ravelry and download this. It was great fun. I did take notes through it just so that when I go and I make the second sock, I've decided I wanted to match the first one. I know exactly how many reps I have to work of what and kind of how I handled it. It was fun. I had fun. I'm not necessarily looking forward to the second sock just because there were some challenging bits in it. What's challenging? No one particular part of the pattern was a challenge. Let me start right there. This is not about the pattern. This is about me, my life, and my choices. I choose to knit during our commute in the car while my husband is driving through crazy city traffic. And there are some cable stitches in my particular choices that were a little sketchy driving through town. So that's kind of part of the issue. The other issue is because of daylight savings time and winter and all that, Sometimes it's a little darker than I should be knitting in. You know, it's getting progressively lighter in the morning while I'm knitting, but I have a tendency to start while it's still a little bit too dark. And some of these little fine lace stitches were a little bit of a challenge in the dark in the car. And I'm just going to turn this around and show you some of the stitches that I did. The heel is particularly pretty. It has a slip stitch motif in it. The gusset has a small section, and then the foot has a different pattern, and then the toe has yet another pattern. And the toe was kind of a linen stitch, and I really liked it. I thought that was nice. I did overdo it. I went too far on my foot, and I ended up making my toe a little bit shorter than they prescribed. But I like it. It works for me. It's comfortable, and it's still a sock. It's still a sock. So I accomplished one, and I have one to go. What else have I been knitting this week? I really intended to work on my How to Eat an Elephant blanket, but with the changes that I've made in how I'm working my business, I dedicated my time to another project instead. And part of that is because I have patrons now. I never imagined. Last week I talked to you guys about setting up my Patreon membership. And Patreon is a membership portal online where people can choose to subscribe to me and basically patron my work. What does that mean? That means that people are making monthly donations, and for each of those donations, I'm able to do more for my business. I'm able to do more for design, video, dyeing, and instruction work for you guys. And it funds the tools, it funds my ability to do it. I never imagined when I set this up that I would have the response that I've had, and I am over the moon grateful for it. Part of that is that I very much want to give back to my patrons, more than what I already do. I had a number of people come forward, and they were kind of upset with me that I was doing this. And it was not that they had an issue with what I was asking for. It was concerned that I was going to somehow take away from the podcast and what I do now. Not the case, not the case at all. It's going to enable me to do additional things, not less of something else. And I'm not going to short anybody who is a subscriber that is not a patron. You're still going to get the same demonstrations and tutorials, all of that stays the same. I'm just going to have exclusive content over on Patreon for the patrons. Even $1 a month makes you a patron and gives you access to that exclusive gateway. And I very much want rewards to go out to everyone, and so at every level of donation, there is some kind of reward. That's important to me. I think I've said that. But I very much wanted to get exclusive content up there quickly and soon for you. And so I've been working on a new design, and I'm really excited about it. It's a hat. It is a slouch hat, and it's got some 3-dimension to it that just pops up and adds some new technique. And they may not be new techniques to you, but it's a new, fresh design. And as a patron, you have exclusive access to it. Again, I don't want to short people that are not patrons. So what I'll be doing is, in addition to having it as an exclusive pattern available to my patrons, I'm also going to set it up so that it is a kit that you can purchase. It'll be in my Etsy shop. It will be the yarn. It will be the pattern. But if you're a subscriber to my podcast, you're going to get a special discount, more than the general public gets. Hang on, it's coming. I can't wait to show you guys. Probably next week I'll have that up for you. Yay. So that's what I've been working on. And I'm going to give you a sneak peek, because what's the fun in it if you don't get to see what I'm talking about? Whoop, there it is. No, I'm not going to be that cheesy with you. So this is a hat, and it is a hat that has a nice long rib pattern on it, and then baubles, And as you can tell, I'm not done yet. It's very much not a hat because it doesn't have a top. But the reason I stopped where I did was because I want to show you guys how my baubles work. I want to show you how to knit the bauble that's in this pattern. And it's a tutorial, free, here for everybody. So let's knit a bauble. Okay, so what is a bauble? A bauble is a three-dimensional stitch. Great. What's a three-dimensional stitch? A three-dimensional stitch is any stitch that adds additional stitches in less space over a very short period of time. You can see here, there's a bauble. It looks very much like a French knot or just a nub or even a tiny pom-pom. This is accomplished with a couple of steps, but they're easy and they're easy to do. First thing we're going to do is identify where our bauble is going to go, which in this case is this very next stitch. Everything that happens to create this bauble is going to happen in this one stitch. To accomplish this particular bauble, we're going to knit into the stitch but not remove it from the left-hand needle. We're then going to perform a yarn over, go back in and knit it a second time. We're going to do one more yarn over and knit it a third time. What we've done here is we've actually created 5 stitches in that one stitch. Easy peasy. But that's not all. That's not the end of our bauble. If we had that, the row would have way too many stitches and we'd just have these weird bumps. We want to close this off and make it this little nub that you see here. So I'm going to start by turning my work. I'm going to just purl back across those 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to turn again. Now I have 5 stitches that have height to them. There's more material there than there was before. It's time to close it. We're just going to close it off. What does that mean? That means we're going to reduce this back down to 1 stitch. To do that, you can either knit 5 together, which I think that's a little bit of a trick. That's putting your needle up through all 5 of these, wrapping, and trying to draw that back down through all 5. And of course it splits and it's just complicated. That's no fun. So instead what I do is I slip 2 as if to knit, I knit 3 together, and then I pass those 2 slip stitches over and off. Ta-da! 1 stitch on my right hand needle working that 1 stitch that we had, and a neat little bauble there. Let's work over to the next one and I'll show you the process again, but a little bit faster. Alright, I'm ready to make my next bauble. I'm going to knit, yarn over, knit, yarn over, knit, take that stitch off, 5 stitches have been created. Turn my work, purl back those 5 stitches, and turn my work again. I'm going to slip 2 stitches as if to knit. I'm going to knit 3 stitches together. I'm going to pass those 2 stitches over and off. 1 stitch remains, and I'm ready to keep going. I'll do one more for you, and you'll see that you get a rhythm and that really isn't all that disruptive in your work. And it's not that hard on your hands. I've had a number of people tell me that they can't bauble because it's too difficult on their hands. There is a little bit of strain because you got to do some back and forth work. I think the hardest part is when you knit 5 together, and all we want to do is reduce that down to 1. Slipping 2, knitting 3 together, which is far more manageable, and slipping those 2 back over and off really works for me and takes a lot of strain off. Yarn over, knit, yarn over, knit. Turn, purl 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, turn your work, slip 2, knit 3 together, lift those 2 over and off, 1 stitch, ready to go. That's that. Those 3 are all done. So this hat has balanced all over it a field of baubles. It's going to be a long slouch hat, and at the very end, how about a giant palm? I think that'll be fun. So hopefully that quick tutorial on how to knit baubles was easy and fun for you. They're not difficult, they're fun, and they add a lot of pop and dimension to pieces. Consider popping some in. What else have I been doing? I've had a lot of projects that have been camping, simply because I put so much time and effort into getting that on the needles and getting that mocked up for you. I really wanted to have that sample available, and I wanted to be able to show you that tutorial. So my Venetian Dream sweater by Josie Packman is living in its bag. The How to Eat an Elephant blanket is living in its basket. And other patterns that I was supposed to work on this week, I didn't work on this week. I really wanted to get that done for you guys. What have I been dyeing? I've been dyeing a lot of sock blanks, and I've been having great fun with them. One of the things that I found I wasn't particularly fond of with sock blanks was that often, if they're stenciled or they're just airbrushed, color doesn't necessarily saturate all the way down through. Why? It doesn't saturate all the way down through because we're working with a flat surface, and rather than doing an immersion, we're really printing on the top of that surface, and we don't want it to bleed because we want the images to remain sharp. So I've been playing with a bunch of techniques to figure out how to get a much more immersive, rich, deep color and still have the fun of the actual stencils and airbrushing that I do. So I've been playing with techniques, and they're multi-process techniques. Let me show you a couple of examples of what I'm talking about. So if you've followed me on Instagram, you've seen a million pictures of these already. If you've popped over to my Etsy shop, you may be familiar with them there as well. There's a broad collection of them available in my shop right now. Pop on over, have a look. I also want to let you know that I have a 3-month sock blank club going on right now. It's going to be January, February, and March. It is limited. There's only so many spaces left. But you're going to get sock blanks done with these techniques in that. And they're kind of a surprise. I haven't released what the designs are that I'm doing for each of those months. Feel free to take a look, pop over if you're adventurous, and join the club. With the multi-process, what we get is a deep saturated color and the ability to still print over the top of it. They're fun, they're easy, and I'd like to show you how I do it. You can get all kinds of colors and blends this way and still have the detailing of the airbrushing right over the top of them. Let's see if I can show you some that have real detail. This one has a ton of detail on it in all these layers. So I can still get color bleeds, I can still get fun stenciling in there, and really pop up the design so that there's a lot of interest. One of my favorites that I did by this method has a bleed, a gradient that goes from one end to the other that is green into orange, and I airbrushed all these trees in there. Sadly, it reminds me of the fires that were happening, may still be happening out in California. It looks like a wildfire to me, but I love the effect. Let's go take a look at that technique in the kitchen. So we're back in the kitchen for another quick tutorial. This time we're going to look at multi-process sock blank dyeing. Multi-process. It is exactly what I'm saying. We're going to process it multiple times to get certain effects. In this particular case, I have an inspiration piece. I went shopping and I found some new stencils. And I found this mermaid, and she's got starfish and a tankfish, and she's got beautiful seaweed here. And it has been cold, cold, cold all over the United States, way colder than people are used to. And it just put me in kind of a tropical mindset that I bet there's an awful lot of people that wish they were on some tropical island someplace on vacation. And got me thinking this way. So I love the idea of this stencil, but I want a really nice watery background. I can airbrush and put effects on this, but to get that watery background all over and really get the colors to all blend and work together is going to take a second process. I'm not going to be able to airbrush everything, and I want a deeper saturation of the color through the entire blank. So we're going to pull out our handy dandy roasting pans again, and we're going to apply some new techniques. First, I need to get my sock blanks. My sock blanks have been soaking overnight in an acid solution. It's 1/3 cup of citric acid to a gallon of water, and I've just had them soaking. I'm going to spin them dry real quick, and then we're going to put them in the pan in a certain way. I'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. This soaked overnight, and now it has been spun dry. I haven't rinsed it. All the acid is still in there, but the blank is dry to the touch. That's useful. Because it's dry, there's less bleeding able to happen. In a high acid solution, the dye is going to take up really, really quickly anyway, but the less water we have in it, the less ability there is for the dye to shift around. And in this particular case, we want it that way. So what I'm doing is I'm unfolding my blank, and I'm laying it in a completely dry roasting pan. Dry. But I'm crunching it up. I'm crunching it up this way because I want to add those mermaids onto the blank this way, and I want to give it a watery, wavy kind of effect. So I'm laying it down, all pretty much flat but for the scrunching, and I'm scrunching it up. And I'll bring the camera over in just a second and show you what I'm talking about here. Alright, I like the way that looks. Let me show you. So the fabric is really ruched, and I have a lot of very high areas and very little actually touching the base of the pan except to hold it up. Now it's time to dye. I have two colors mixed up that go with that watery theme. I have kind of a dark teal, and then I have a very, very pale watery blue. I'm going to start with the darker color first because I'm pouring the dye into the pan and letting it run, so it's really only going to get picked up by the areas that are touching the pan. Dark dye, all mixed up, and I'm going to pour it way off in the corner in the void. And I'm not going to pour it fast, and I'm going to try very hard not to dribble it across the top of the yarn. Way off in the void. And now I'm simply going to tip my pan to allow the dye to flow around and get into those bottom sections that are touching. Some of it's going to take up really hard, some of it's going to take up a little bit more bleeding just because of the tilting, and it's going to be in unexpected areas. There's no good planning for this. It's a lot like tie-dyeing. But I'm going to tilt it around until the majority of that dye is gone, and when I tilt the pan, there's no more dye rolling around. Alright, so I'm going to hold the pan up and show you. The dye has taken up in some areas, and in a lot of areas it hasn't. This is great. We didn't want it to take up everywhere. This is a type of resist dye. There's still some droplets rolling around, but that's okay too, because when I add the lighter color, it's going to mix in with them a little bit, and we're going to get a nice transition of colors. Before I add that extra color, I'm going to spread out the actual sock blank a little bit to expose more to the bottom so that more color can get in the areas that previously didn't get any dye. And all I'm doing is spreading it out widthwise. And I'm pouring in that other dye. Again, I'm pouring it into the voids, this time a little bit more haphazardly, and I'm tilting it around again. A little bit of shifting to get some extra exposure there, a little bit of patting. I'm looking for a nice watery effect. But I want those dyes to be saturated through so that you don't get that real heathered look when you're knitting it. I'm manipulating my fabric just to spread what little dye is left in the pan into it. There's going to be white voids still, and I'm happy with that. That gives me the ability to airbrush in. And I'm just previewing that skein to see if I really like what happened. And for the majority of it, I really like it. It's given me a lot of voids that have space for me to airbrush and a lot of interesting color. The color comes up in blobs and folds and just divots and valleys all over the place to make it really, really interesting. And I'm just going to spread a piece out and hold it up to try and show you kind of what it looks like. All the dye has been absorbed up in the blank, so nothing I'm doing now is really manipulating the dye anymore. That's what we got. This watery texture where I have all these different waves of light happening. There's blues coming all the way down, there's teals all through it. Just going to drag it through and show you this wonderful cloudy, watery effect. Not something I would have gotten through airbrushing, not something I would have gotten through immersion dyeing, really something I get through this wrinkled fold resist kind of method. This blank needs a little bit more water just to protect it while I put it in the oven to heat set it, so let me do that. And I'm using my leftover dye jar. A little extra color never hurts. Same with the other dye jar. Not a lot of water. I've probably added maybe a cup. All that's doing is acting as a lubricant between the pan and the yarn so that the yarn doesn't scorch. This is going to go into my oven at 225 degrees for about 20 minutes. I want this to heat set, and I want it to heat set hard so that when I airbrush it later, those dyes are there. They're permanent, and they're not going to intermingle and change. Into the oven we go. Okay, so my blank is all heat set. It's fresh out of the oven. I've gone ahead and given it a really, really quick rinse and just spun it dry again. You can see all the beautiful blue shades that I was hoping for, really a watery tone. Now I'm going to lay it out and I'm going to start the second process. Again, the sock blank is really quite dry. I'm doing that on purpose because I want really crisp lines. It has still got the acid mixture in it. I've only rinsed it very, very lightly to make sure that there's no dye runoff and spun it dry. That rinse that I gave it was in the acid mixture again. Now I'm just going to lay it out on plastic here and start the airbrush and stenciling process. I got such a great response the last time I did the speed up technique for you on this that I'm going to do it again. I know you guys really like being able to see this develop. Alright, so that does it for my underwater tropical scene. You saw me airbrush, you saw me stencil, you saw the double process where I did a resist by folding technique in the roasting pan first, and this is the result. I'm just going to pan along here and let you see the whole thing. And finally, just to finish off that sock blank, I folded it all up in the plastic that it was on, and I'm drying it in my steam tray right now. It's going to steam for about 20 minutes. It doesn't need to be boiling quite as hard as I have it boiling. My glass is all just steamed up. Just a simmer really so that there's a good strong steam so that the heat penetrates all the way through. No, your plastic won't melt. You're perfectly safe there. After 20 minutes, I'm going to let it cool way down to room temperature. I'll unfold it, I'll give it a wash, spin it dry, iron it, fold it up, and prep it to go out the door. This sock blank, if you love it, is going to be in my Etsy shop, so you'll want to jump in and grab it. I love being able to take you guys in there and show you what I do and how I do it. I think that is the best, and hopefully through some really clever editing, you just saw a whole segment that actually took about an hour to do. Finally, so I had patrons for January. They were able to get in under the line. I can't believe you guys signed up so fast. Thank you. But I have drawings that I need to do as a result. I have a drawing that I need to do as a result. Like I said, every level of the patron system has some kind of a reward, and I have 2 patrons at my benefactor level, so they have a 50% chance of winning the drawing. And I'm going to use random.org to determine between 1 and 2, and at that particular level, each month I draw a random benefactor, and you receive a special knitting gift from me, inclusive of yarn, a pattern, and more. That is at $5 a month. I really am trying to make sure that I thank you guys in the biggest way possible. So if you're interested, the chances are very high that you're going to win drawings in many of my levels. I have caps on how many people can be at that level to keep it so that you're not 1 in 1,000 people. You're like 1 in 25 people, and your chances are very high that you'll get my thank you gift. Above and beyond me just going, wow, I love you guys, thank you so much. So I have pulled up my random generator, true random number generator. I have put in a minimum number of 1, a maximum number of 2, and I'm clicking generate, and my result is number 2. Number 2 on my benefactor list is Betty Ann! Yay! Oh, technology, I'm so good at it. So, Betty Ann, thank you, thank you, thank you. I have your address. I will get your reward out to you immediately. And again, thank you, everyone. If you have ideas about what you want to see in the kitchen, or if you want to see specific stitch tutorials, or even some design tutorials, drop me a line. I'm here for you, and I can't wait to show you what we can do together. As always, I am so very, very grateful, and I will see you all next time. Bye.